You could just bridge them into their equity through a creative model like Novations. You spend a couple weeks to renovate it, the seller gets worked in their equity, and you just have a property that you get to flip that you don't have to buy.
Welcome everyone to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with Trever Ahing. Trever is the founder and CEO of Buyer Beater University, the #1 education company for teaching people how to get started in real estate investing. And today, Trever shares with us his move from his career in the Marines to getting started in real estate investing, and how that real estate investing then led to the creation of his company and educational platform, Buyer Beater University. And we dive deep into novations and creative investing, and Trever shares why he thinks novations are the most profitable strategy in real estate investing. So without further ado, let's talk to Trever. Trever, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to talk to you and have you explain to everybody this whole world of creative investing in real estate. So I'd love to start it off with how it got started, and then we can hit it with how it got going in with your Buyer Beater University.
Of course, Kat. Thank you so much for having me. It is I love going over the origin story, right? It's always a blast because I stumbled into real estate. I had no idea I wanted to do this. I grew up in apartments my whole life. My mom still rents, she has that kind of mentality. But I joined the military when I was 19, right? I didn't even think I was going to do that either. So I joined the Marine Corps, traveled a bunch. And then, long story short, when I ended up getting married, my wife stated that she wanted to get her license. And I was like, honey, you are hot. You can go do it, go crush it, sell all the homes to my friends. And then she ended up chickening out to go to a seminar that was located in San Diego. I didn't want to waste the $60. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to go. And then when I sat down there, it was very much so a creative, position of just kind of understanding that you don't need to be very suit and tie with real estate. You can come at it from all different angles. It was very approachable. I felt like it was something that was attainable. And so I just kind of started delving into that world. I started with the VA loan, right? And the benefits of utilizing that. And unfortunately, service members don't do that as often. And got my first house, started house hacking, rented out the rooms to my buddies, and then all of a sudden I'm cash flowing and I got addicted to it. And then I just started stumbling into different creative measures. So I always like to say my wife's failure is my greatest success. And it's the best way that we went about this. And so that's kind of how I got started.
It's always so cool to kind of see when people kind of fall into the thing that ends up like being your zone of genius, right? It's like you had no intentions of doing this, and so it's so cool that you've really built it out into something that's been really profitable, been really successful, and seems like you're really driven towards.
I'm so passionate with it now. It's because, yeah, like you said, it opens up so many doors, right? I mean, you get to look at the world from such a different lens. And so as you kind of fail forward into it, you realize that not everybody knows what they're doing all the time, And so when I kind of gathered that, and you start kind of picking other people's brains, you start seeing exactly how you can start piecing things together. I do think my time in the service kind of led me into kind of being very structurally sound on what I want to do. So I built a better foundation than others maybe in it. But then as I started kind of getting into avenues that I was just passionate about, like the creative side, I went full force. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you. It is crazy how your whole world can just explode with awesomeness just through this industry.
Okay, so you started house hacking, and I think it's so funny. I was listening to one of your other interviews where you were like, and I was pretty sure I invented this.
Oh, yeah. I legit thought it for like a year.
That's so great. It's okay. I thought my friends had invented this. I was like, these guys always are renting out a room. They're so smart. They've invented this. But so from there you're starting kind of your real estate investor journey. I'm curious about the flip from when you left the service and then went into real estate full time. Was your impetus there to be an agent? Was it to be a full-time wholesaler? Like what did you think you were going to do, and what ended up happening?
Absolutely. So when I started house hacking, I just started, accumulating what I thought was wealth. It really is just cash flow. It's kind of the things that, the first thing that your eye see is the green. You're like, oh my goodness, we can just do this forever. And then my wife's like, no, because I don't want to share my house with a bunch of dudes all the time. And I'm like, okay. So I said, what can I kind of transfer into And of course, I found wholesale, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I have means for an operation now. I like being on the phone, flirting with old women and talking war stories with the men, so I felt like that was already kind of something good. I got lucky, Kat, I'm not going to lie. I paid into a program, right? That was the best thing I ever did. I found, it was through referrals. My first deal was in about 6-7 weeks. I had a couple cold callers. And so the wholesale assignment piece was I got my first deal like $6,000, right? And I was like, this is awesome. My second wholesale deal was about $150,000. And that is something where I was like, I'm rich. I could do this all the time. Every month I'm going to make this. And as you know, in the industry, it's such a hamster wheel that I never saw a wholesale fee that size ever again, right? So I got blessed to be able to kind of get thrusted into something. It worked quickly, but I did reinvest a lot of that into kind of, understanding the industry a little bit more. And then, of course, we spent some of it. But that kind of led me to getting my license, because as I started blowing my operations up, I came to find out that my cash offer kind of sucks, right? You deal with the 4 Ds, right? Death, distress, divorce, and debt. So you're dealing with the bad situation. And I always say, you're here to bridge the gap to a solution, right? And if a quick cash offer isn't that solution, I didn't really have anything to fall back on. So I got my license, right? So I built rapport. They liked me. And so I was still in the service at the time. So whenever I did get out, off work from the Marine Corps, I would sit my butt in a chair and I would make my dials that my cold callers put me in front of. And so that's why I'm a big fan of what I call NIPTs, non-income producing tasks, because I don't want to have to work during that kind of, that sweat equity piece. But yeah, I would list these homes, and then I found myself listing a lot of properties that need a bunch of work. It's still the same demographic. And so I was like, there's got to be a way to like bridge the gap between these, because that's either they don't like my cash offer, so I put it on market for a discounted commission, but it sits forever because nobody wants to buy a freaking house conventionally that's in this condition. So I found Daddy Pays Morby, right? And so he started going over creative opportunities, and I found the Novation model, and that's kind of what my bread and butter is. And so I was able to kind of bridge the gap between a cash offer solution, working sellers into their equity, and getting the property sold. And Novations have just been life changing for me.
That's amazing. And honestly, like, it makes so much sense, because like I'm out looking at houses right now and I'm finding the same thing. If anything seems like it needs like $10,000 or $20,000 worth of work, I'm like just not interested.
I know.
I just don't have that kind of time at this time in my life.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of solving that problem for a lot of people, which is really, really cool. And so at what point did it go from you doing this solo to building the team, to building the education platform?
Oh, it was, I did this by myself for years. I kind of, like you said, I thought that I was like inventing this weird thing, and I was like kind of kept it, close to me for a while, because the novation piece is really just, like I say, bridging that gap, right? So can I go over a novation, the situation that got me into my first novation?
Yes,
okay,
please.
Cool. So it was an Air Force couple. They were active duty, right? So they had to leave because they were getting what's called PCS, which is a permanent change of station. They were going somewhere else. I think they were going to, like, I don't know, Colorado or something. But I walked the home, and I knew it needed some work. And so I said, you know what, my cash offer is going to be too low. I think I was going to offer $250. They owed around $288. So, they weren't going to take that, but it could be worth $400,000 fully renovated. But as I walked it, I just thought I was going to list it, but the flooring, he tried to do the flooring himself, which wasn't the best job, and it was like halfway done, halfway not. The kitchen was extremely dated, which is fine. They've never upkept the landscaping. The hardware on the kitchen had like red and blue roosters, and I'm like, this property is just so funky. And so I was looking at it, and I thought it could be a perfect novation, which is just locking the seller into a certain, amount that they're comfortable with. And then, putting funding into the property to maybe force appreciate it, and then list the home, and whatever it sells for, I cover the realtor fees, closing costs, and I'll make the difference. And so I didn't really think about how impactful that could be. And so when I walked it, and keep in mind, I've never done a flip, right? I still to this day will break blinds. Like, I've flipped over 100 homes, and I 100% will be the one to spill the paint, break the blinds. I don't even know how to change, a light switch. So that's not my thing, right? But I was walking it, and I told him, I said, you know what? What's your price that you got to walk away with? And he goes, I really need to make like $305,000, like minimum. which is like 25,000 more than he owed, right? So he can get some money back from his mortgage. My cash offer was out the window, but I knew if I put it on market at like 340, I might get traction in a couple weeks because it was so dated. I mean, after realtor fees, closing costs, seller credit, he'd probably get that. But he was like, I need to get this thing in like, 4 to 6 weeks. And I'm like, dude, I just told him, I said, look, why don't we do this? It's a new program. I always do. Never done it. And I was like, let's get you $310,000, right? Now, the thing is, I got funding ready to go, which I had the money, right? If I just come in with you, I got my crew. I didn't have anybody, right? I got I got my fully licensed contracting crew. We'll come in here. We'll just pay to renovate your home on behalf of you, right? That way, when you do leave to Colorado, the property is going to be vacant. We'll come in there, we'll fully renovate it. Any appreciation we create through the renovation, when we then list it, and I list it for you, I'll cover all the realtor fees, even the buyer's agent's expenses, and your closing costs. Whatever's left over, about 310, I'll just take as a return on my investment. He freaking loved it. So he turned over, the residential listing agreement, and I started writing terms. I'm like, I think this sounds right. And then I ended up getting a proper contract. I gave it to him. He loved it. I called my buddy Mark from the Marine Corps, who was stationed over in Arizona, and I was like, "What's it going to take to renovate this thing?" And he was like, 15 grand and a pack of Bud Light. I was like, "Done." So I flew him down here. He helped renovate the entire thing. It took about 11 days to renovate. We lived in the home and did that. It sold for $405,000, same day on market. We got 3 offers in. I made more than my entire year's worth as a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps on that one deal by giving the seller 5K more and then force appreciating my profit so I could work them into an offer I felt comfortable with. I just revisited all my dead deals doing that, and I made over $500,000 in like 7 months from my dead wholesale deals, and I just never looked back at it. That was like my go-to thing. And so that's where it's like, that was the mentality,
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible story, and it just makes sense. And now you rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was first, looking into what you do, and I know you've addressed this like some in other conversations you've had, but for the sake of people listening here, when they're like, it sounds too good to be true,
Yeah.
can you give us your little comeback for that?
It totally is. It really totally is. And I'm a big fan of wholesale. And here's the thing. When I say it like that, and of course I've been polished to do it forever, it makes sense. And you go, why would anybody not do it? People wouldn't do it because if they need money in a couple weeks, that's not me, right? I mean, that's a great wholesale cash offer, fix and flip. I mean, if you can't work with, if you can't work with the patience, I can't work with your price, right? So if you need to get in front of something 30 days or even 60 days or less, because you're in a bind financially, if it's a cash offer deal, you should do the cash offer deal, right? That's why it's a little bit lower, because they're working with your as is timeline. You know what I mean? So identifying that, if they reside in the home, if they need money quick because of an unfortunate death or something in that nature, you'd probably need to position a quicker close, and that's not what I can do. But if you are willing to test the market, right, you have a couple months to be able to make sure that you can get your financials in order, or you feel like you have the patience and you're willing to be able to get worked into your equity. This is where very much so more of a collaborative service, right? I take over 3 things. We call it the marketing, maintenance, and management of a transaction. I really want the seller to kind of feel like, hey, they can kick their feet up. I can take over the entire headache. I could be their Tylenol for this home sale, put my own money into it, and they feel like it's more of a collaboration that way, and then get the property sold on behalf of them. And so when you kind of work through that model, they get to see the hard work you put into it. Not everything goes right all the time. I've put anywhere from 12 grand to $300,000 into properties, depending on the situation. And I over communicate with the homeowners to make them feel comfortable about what we're doing, because residential real estate is just super emotional. It really is a situation where you don't want the homeowner to feel cornered. So if they have a little bit of a little bit of window with time, it is so cool to make them feel like they're a part of like this HGTV show. They get to pick the backsplash that you're already going to do, but you don't know if it's going to be like eggshell or white dove or something, And so when they become a part of that, they love seeing how much you're going to make and the residual business that comes off of that's amazing. Because they always are like, well, I have a cousin in New Mexico, he needs a new roof, but he wants to move to X, Y, and Z. I mean, you can just come in there and start transitioning your service so seamlessly, because people see, what you're able to take on in regards to your workload.
For sure. And you've built this pretty fast, right? You
Yes.
you left the service in 2021,
Hmm.
correct?
I
Yeah,
did.
we're
Yes.
2024, 3 years later. It's this huge, business for you. Congratulations, first of
Thank
all. And
you. Thank you for your support. That
yeah,
means a lot.
um I mean, it's just incredible to see how quickly, growth can happen. And so how did you scale up your business? Because I believe you are in a couple different locales too, as well now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I pried a lot to my wife, right? I think the emotional support of her, it was very much a good kick in the butt because telling her, hey, honey, I'm going to leave, this industry that I spent 8 years in, multiple deployments. I thought I was going to do 30 years in the Marine Corps and I'm going to go pursue real estate because we all know how concrete that is. She just didn't bat an eye. She was like, hell yeah. And so kind of coming to where we have and seeing the, potential that I had, she was always there to kind of be my rock, which is awesome. And then I also just had a great team, right? My business partner, Robert, he takes over our day-to-day operations. He is such an integral piece of, the innovation of what this business can hold. And so I understood what I'm really good at. I understood where I can lean on somebody else to kind of build support with. And then from there, it was just slowly but surely building out. And it's funny because you say it was quick, and it was, but it was months and months and months of hundreds of hours of content and cold calls and all these things to then just get in front of the right person who told a buddy who told a buddy kind of deal. So that was big. My team is everything.
That's amazing. And so now, not only are you doing this Novation investment strategy, but you have a program where you teach it as well.
Yes, I do. So that was a fun thing to stumble into. When we started doing it ourselves, it was a big operation that we would take on. And then buddies, I work with a lot of avid agents, top 1% agents, newer agents, fix and flippers, where it is so cool because Novations is such a niche that you don't really step on anybody's toes. Because if it fits your model, you're just going to do your model. But this creative outlook of being able to partner with the homeowner to renovate it, it means that our numbers can be a lot higher because we're just looking on the cash on cash of money that we put into a home. It's very easy to put $25,000 into a home to get 20K out of it. And that numbers, nobody would do a flip for 20,000. If you had to buy it 10% down, interest only points, hard money accruance, all these things. And so when you identify that leg, my buddies are like, hey, these are dead deals. Does it work for you? And it ended up working. And so it was kind of my circle going, well, never be afraid to put money in your friends' pockets. Can I pay you to teach me? Right. And I said, of course, like I'll just take part of the equity. It was more of a consulting piece until a friend of a friend, they're like, well, how do we create something where we can foster a community to where, people that have full-time jobs can kind of, lean into the real estate piece. And I said, you know what, like I felt that in the military. So my whole shtick is if you find it, we fund it. I just teach you how to identify these opportunities. A lot of them come from on market or building agents relationships with like $0. And then we come on board, we build our credibility of what we do. And then we just end up tackling the deal. We renovate it for you and work our community into the equity. And we've been able to change lives of electricians and teachers and anybody who's not really a full-time agent or investor. And that's been pretty cool. So that is through Buyer Beater University. And we have been growing to almost 1,000 members now.
Wow. And you're working with people nationwide, correct?
We are absolutely nationwide. We've done deals, I'd say in like almost every state. There's probably like 4 or 5 that we haven't done deals in. We're pretty big in our major markets, with the Novation piece. Like if you gave me a deal, CAD, and you were like, it's in like this outskirts Louisiana, I probably wouldn't put, 40 grand into it. I might do the other Novation, which is called an equity protection. That is amazing. But I'd say we are nationwide. We would say yes to any, within a major city, really big in Florida, Texas, California, Nevada, Arizona, anywhere that you see real estate kind of popping off. We're just such a complementary piece to those areas. But 90% of the people who give us deals are all virtual. You don't need to be close to where you're marketing. It's all about kind of understanding where to market, really.
Certainly. Yeah. And I mean, like, gosh, like come to my area and renovate all the houses and I'll buy one.
Let's do it. Where are you at again?
We're in Michigan. We're located in the
Oh,
kind of
let's go.
mid-Michigan
I'm
area.
not from Detroit. People are afraid of Detroit. I like Michigan. I'm
Oh
I'm bullish
gosh.
on Michigan.
There are some beautiful historic homes in
Hmm.
Detroit that people shouldn't be sleeping
You would
on.
crush it with novations out there.
Yeah. So I know also you've kind of continued your relationship with the military in the sense that you now have a program where you're helping service members get involved in real estate. Can we talk
Mhm.
about that?
Oh my goodness. This thing is so much fun. We call it the VHA program. So the Veteran Home Advantage program, which just means that I've taken the Novation platform that we do where we partner with homeowners. We renovate the home on behalf of them. But when we test the open market, what are we getting, right? We're talking to the 20% down conventional 1031ers. We're talking to people who have a bunch of money who want to buy a really pretty house, but have a lot of backup offers for VA, and unfortunately, VA can only go up to what it's going to appraise for. They can't remove inspection contingencies, all these things. And if I have another offer that can, we're investors, right? So you end up taking that one. And so I see that and I'm like, darn, like how can I kind of be there so that way they don't have to cushion the blow of making so many offers. And in quarter three, quarter four with, flipping, you kind of die down. You're not going to put a property on market, mid-October, early December because everyone's going to, they've solidified their school districts with their children. School started. They want to be fat and happy on Thanksgiving. Like there's so many things where you wouldn't want to do it then. But what does happen, and this is year round, people are always coming and going in the military. And so I just decided to kind of reverse engineer my model and find service members who are already pre-approved for, a home or at least, pre-approved for a certain amount. And if they're going to move to Michigan or Cali or wherever they're going, they just go, well, hey, Trev, I'm approved for, a 4-bed, 3-bath at 450,000. I want to buy in this area. Well, I'm able to just kind of give that criteria to my community and they end up looking on properties on market or off market, depending on their campaign, properties that need work, that have been sitting for 90, 120 days. And it's such an easy pitch with these homeowners now because we just call them, we say, hey, Brenda, every seller I have is always Brenda. Hey, Brenda, I have some great news. I see that you're looking at selling your home. It is in a condition, that's unfortunately not going to be suitable to probably place on market or sell in the condition it's in. But I do have a hero who's trying to buy your house right now. They will be utilizing the VA loan and they've been approved for a Veteran Home Advantage program. So that means that we're going to be able to approve all the renovations needed against your house to be able to give this over to a service member and their family. And sellers freaking love it. We basically just get to come in there, renovate the home in an area that the service member already wants to live in, kind of customize it for them and their family. If they have a son, we'll paint the rooms blue or pink for a girl, whatever. And then whatever it appraises for, we just get the in between and we don't have to pay for the buyer's agent's fees. We get to in-house some costs, gives the sellers more money. We can even come 10, 15K lower than the appraised value because all we're looking at is a certain return on our money. And it's just a very nerdy way to kind of plug and chug and not even have to test the market, and that's been really cool. Now we have a laundry list of investors that we just love, or of vets or service members that we help because it's not going anywhere. They want to buy, and financial literacy is not taught amongst our freaking military. It's really, really unfortunate. So I want to give them a very easy step-by-step way to buy a home and make it as seamless as possible, and that's been pretty cool.
That is so cool. I mean, gosh, the financial literacy piece, it's not taught in schools either, which I think is a whole other conversation.
Oh
And
yeah.
and yes, and then the men and women serving in our armed forces, are some of our most valued people. We need everything you guys do, and so they should definitely be taken care of.
Thank you. They should. I love these platforms too. You have such a good platform to be able to just blast this out to people. So when they hear it, you want it to feel, it's simple. We talk to so many people and they just think buying a house is like the hardest thing in the world. And we have 3 closings today and we just walk over there with our notary and we just kind of sign some stuff, fingerprint some stuff. And of course, there's a lot more to it. But when you can kind of get that traction going, it's a bug that you can change the entire trajectory of your family's lineage, through. And I really think that starts with just getting your first home, especially when you're in the service. It's so easy and your benefits are so amazing.
What would you say are the things an investor needs to do to find and get their first novation deal?
Mm. Give me your dead deals. It's like literally that simple. If you've built rapport with the homeowner, they like you, but your offer was just too low and that they need $30,000, $50,000 more, congratulations. You literally have a picture perfect novation deal, right? It's just all open to how you're able to digest the terms to your homeowner, right? That's where we can come in. So if you have opportunities where you're like, what? Like I have 10 out of, 9 out of every 10 sellers I talk to want to sell, but my offer is just too low. It's all about pitching a creative understanding of how you can get them to that, to that price point by utilizing, your servicing. Novations are a service. And so I would always revisit your dead leads, call them and say, hey, you know what? I know that we spoke a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago and my funding partner didn't approve the price that you want. I do have insane news, right? I just partnered with a creative financing company, right? Or a creative financing department that states that they can be able to get you closer at that price point if you're open to terms. And when they go, what the hell are terms? You go, that's a great question for our creative finance department. Let me get you on the phone with them. And then our acquisitions gets on the phone. We go over everything. We even close them on behalf of you with our contracts, and then we get you a part of that equity, right? We really want to be a complimentary service. That's like all I care about. I haven't gone direct to seller in years. So my business would be like, if I didn't teach this correctly, And so that's been pretty cool. So, I mean, if you got deals collecting cobwebs and you know that they want to sell, just pass them on over and let's just joint venture.
Why do you think novations are the most profitable strategy in real estate investing? And do you think they will continue to be?
I think novations are going to take over the universe. Like I truly do. I feel like it's because sellers are getting so smart. They are, like having your license 20 years ago was like, and nothing against agents. I love agents, but I'm just saying, now, everybody and their mom might have a license and try to position themselves in the industry, which I think is amazing. But sellers also know that they can work terms, they can negotiate commissions now. It really wasn't just, my husband's friend's an agent. Everything that they say is probably gospel for real estate now. It's very much so. I know 10 others, right? And they'll do it for this. They'll do it for this. They say my house is worth this, and good on them, And so if you can get worked into the authority of a service and translate that to more money for them and they can be risk free on that side, it is a great way to be able to boost the appeal of what you can do and then give the seller more as well. So on the novation piece, I really like the fact that our average assignment fee, like our minimum is about 33,000 bucks, like our minimum, right? We've made anywhere of 280 grand, to 33. And it's, why is it such a wide range? It's because the market that you're in and what the property needs, right? And we're so transparent with our homeowners, which is what I love. If we tell a service member, or not service member, we tell a seller, and I'll use like this example that I always use. If a property is worth 500,000 bucks, and it needs $50,000 worth of work, and you want to make 20K, right? Let's just do the traditional wholesale model, right? ARV at 75 cents on the dollar minus the 50K minus your 20K equals what you call a max allowable offer. That's at 280 grand, right? So if it's a deal and they accept 280, great. You could probably sell it for 300, right? But sellers usually go, kick rocks, cat, that offer freaking sucks, right? I need at least 350 grand. That's $50,000 to $70,000 more than what you can offer. But that's a picture perfect novation. So just tell them, there's two forms of novations. And if I nerd out too much, you're more than welcome to stop me. Okay. Cause I like,
Oh, no, feel free.
Okay. There's two forms. There's one, where they're occupying the home, and there's one where that it's vacant, right? If you're putting money into a home, it's usually always vacant, right? I would highly recommend never doing live and flips. I've done a couple, and yeah, like it made sense, but it was like, I was literally the worst, experience. I will never do it again. But if it's vacant and they're a distressed landlord, or their tenants just unfortunately ruined their house and left because they were getting evicted or whatever, you just tell your homeowner, okay, well, why don't we guarantee you $350,000, right? We come in there, I'm like I already state, I already have money ready to go. Obviously you're a little bit outside of my buy box because I'm trying to offer 280, but if we don't want to involve the bank, why don't we just work together? I'd rather not pay all these miscellaneous fees. If I can just come in here and start swinging hammers tomorrow, I can guarantee you 350, work you into $70,000 more of your equity, put that $50,000 in, and then when I sell it, I'll cover all your costs, right? And so you're giving them exactly what they want on their timeline. You're taking over the risk, but you're also receiving the reward, right? And so I always tell my homeowners, if I'm going to put 50 in, I'm trying to make at least 30 to 50 out, right? And so they never have an issue. So if it sells for 500, after realtor fees and closing costs, you're at 465. Well, they wanted 350. Your 50 just made you 65 grand. That's over 100% cash on cash. And what I did there was give the seller everything they wanted, sell a home that meant a lot to them so they can kind of, end this chapter and resolve it in a way that they feel comfortable with, right? And then take all the upside with also all the headache and management. And that is a service that you can position over. And on the wholesale piece, I truly do feel I don't hate wholesalers. I get all my like business from wholesalers, but the residual business of that is like, if you're trying to shop a deal out and you got them at 280 and you have somebody at 284, you're going to come back and get them lower, right? So instead of trying to ethically cut down on what's necessary to be able to bridge that gap to a solution, it's a lot easier to work them into your profit so they can kind of bake into the timeline that's needed, so that way you can both walk away a little bit happier. And that's been pretty cool. And that's why I think novations are going to continue to be a service, because when you figure it out, you just never stop doing them.
I'm curious how you identify with the renovations, like what's going to get you the most kind of ROI, right? I think, like often when I look at houses, it's like kitchens and bathrooms. Like, is that what your general contractors are looking at? And I guess how are you deciding, kind of how much to put in versus like how much you'll get back?
Oh, that's such a great question, right? And that's why when I say nationwide, I preface like we now work with the contracting company, because finding contractors sucks. Like it
Mm.
is like I've had to fire people. They've stolen like 60 grand from us. They've lit our houses on fire, like dealing with these, and I'm like out of state dealing with this. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I will state that if you join the community and you want to do business, if I don't have somebody there, I would highly recommend looking at somewhere local to you, because I will lean on you for the project management piece, which just means just visit the property once a week, make sure things are going good, because you're going to get paid handsomely from the equity. But to go back to your question, yeah, I rely on local experts all the time. Like a great agent locally, I do not skimp on agent commissions, right? So if an agent tells me, and I find top 1% agents, and I go, hey, this is our model, this is what we do, we're going to renovate the home, we're going to sell it, and I want it to look like a property you just sold because you're the subject matter expert locally. Well, then they go, well, you need this, this kitchen needs to, have waterfall quartz countertops. You got to be able to stage it this way. I lean on their expertise so heavy to kind of cookie cutter. I'm not here to recreate the wheel whatsoever. I'm seeing what sells over there, and I'm just going to go do that, And so every market is different, but I have a great contracting crew now that I've done, so many deals with. They give us great deals. We give them, high intensity volumes on operations, and then I work really closely with agents and our community members to try to foster, what's going to be necessary for the home, and then we get it done.
That's awesome. And then I'm sure it just makes the agent's life like so much easier. Like it sounds like they sell themselves at this point, right? Then the,
Oh
the
yeah.
marketing, the branding is just so easy because you can can highlight versus maybe trying to like hide some, you know,
Some cost here,
otherwise.
some
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
really totally right. I like good agents, and so when people would go, "Oh, well, I'm a new agent, you'll never use me." No, I totally will. You know what I mean? Like I 100% will. If you bring a deal or you have a listing and you're a struggling listing agent, and unfortunately you're not getting the kind of buyers you want because of the condition of the home, you could just pitch my services as as somebody that it benefits you. I always tell everybody that joins the community is I work for you 100%, right? So if you go, well, hey, honey, I could list this home, with the full 3% commission, but it's probably not going to sell for 60, 90 days because it needs $15,000 worth of work here, here, and here. I do have a creative department that specializes with my listing services that will come in and renovate the home on behalf of you. Let's guarantee you this amount. They'll come in, sorry, they'll come in, they'll be able to position this out. And the great news with the agent is as they're working the development of all this, they get to now list a house where they're going to make double the commission, right? Your commission goes up with the higher the price point of the house. But on top of that, you're going to sell a product that you're glad that's in your portfolio, and you're going to attract the buyers that you now want to work with as well, right? So it's a phenomenal way to kind of boost the trajectory of your listing services just by being able to provide that. So when you tell a seller, well, I don't do anything less than 6, and they go, oh my God, like, no, I need at least 2%, yada, you just go, oh no, I'm sorry, you don't pay for my services. My creative department actually does, and they'll do that by providing X, Y, and Z. And sellers are like, what? I don't have to update my kitchen, this. I can my family can see the way the house is supposed to look like. Even if we just do landscaping and we repaint the kitchen and we take some stains off the rugs, just by creating what we call the current condition retail value of building in traffic to your home, we'll be able to cover the real estate commissions like that, and so that's been really cool to work with agents. And then it's like they never go away. They're like, they always think every house can do this. And so it's awesome to see the submissions come in from that.
Yeah, as an agent, I see how attractive that is.
Yes.
So for these, the sellers who are, what kind of timelines, and I know each one is going to be different, but kind of like what kind of timelines would people expect?
That is a great question, right? So if it's an extensive rehab, the good news is I have two solutions to the two answers to this question. The first one is, remember, we don't have to wait 30 days to get going. So if you sign documents that property's vacant, I will come in the next day, get things ready to go. So we can be done with rehab in a couple weeks, like quite easily, right? We don't have to wait for the lending requirements or the pre-approvals or the cash to close. We need none of that. We just work together and we go, okay, great. Just sit back, relax. I'm going to make your home pretty. We get in front of it and we knock that out, right? But also, let's just say it is an extensive rehab where you're like, dude, this thing hasn't been updated since like the 40s. This is bad. We need to remove a wall that's not retaining. We got to open the kitchen up because every house on the block is that, yada, yada. Well, we can do that. But let's say it's going to take, 8 weeks of renovations. I pay the seller's mortgage. I'll even cash flow them for two reasons. One, right, it's a whole hell of a lot cheaper than interest-only payments, right? And two, I'm going to make it applicable to their purchase price. So if I'm going to guarantee them, let's say $350,000, right? If it takes 4 or 5 months to sell and their mortgage is $2,600, I'll pay them $3,000 a month every month on the first of every month. They can cash flow $400. I'm amortizing what I owe them, and it's applicable to their $350, which just means that every dollar I put in is a dollar I get out, and they don't have to worry about utilities, electrical, mortgage, nothing, and they just get to see the finished product. And that's been pretty cool. So that's why I say if you have patience, you can make a whole hell of a lot more money through this types of service, But the longest that we've taken is about 126 days, right? So about 4 months, and that's to close. And it's predominantly because we are picky with the areas that we're in now. We look at, days on market. So as an agent, we're going to come to you, and if you tell me, oh my gosh, if this had this and this, I can get 4 offers in a week, we're just going to do that. You know what I mean? We're looking at a minimum of 70% cash on cash. So if I need to put in 50, I want to make at least 30, 35 back, And, but if it's going to sit on market, the cool thing is my number one goal is to get the seller paid and to get my money back, right? Obviously. So if I put 50 into it and the seller's getting 350, it's at 400, and we put it out there for 5, and you're like, market took a tank, it's not looking good. We just had something sell at 49, I'm so sorry. And then we just price it at 49 and it sells. Well, after realtor fees and closing costs, I'm at what, 450? So my 50 still made 50. We're able to bake in so much equity that even if I took a 50% hit on where I was going to position it, I still receive a 25, 30%, ROI on my money I put in, which is still amazing, right? And so that's been pretty cool. So number one, there's a long-winded answer to say number one goal is when we put it on market, we're pricing to sell. I'm not here to break records. I'm here to just get this as a quick and concise closing, get a return on my investment, and make the seller happy.
That's great. Is there any project that would be too big? Like, I guess, like, how do you assess that risk? If it needs like too much work, are you just like, no, I will leave that for the wholesalers, even if someone's like really sticky on their price?
Yeah, we turn away. We say no more than we say yes. I will say that.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that come in and, well, if you just put a basketball court in the back like this house, and there's all these little additions you can add. But two reasons why we would say no. One, if it's going to be stud-up job and it was massive fire damage, right? Probably is better as a tear down, rebuild, just buy the land to get in front of that. I mean, you can novate that land, right? And then do stick up, but then from there you're getting in front of construction loans and all these things. And I know what I'm good at, right? So that's not really my forte. I've done 2 new constructions. One went really well in Houston. The other one is still in construction, and I've been paying for it for a year, right? So it's very much so like I get my buy box. My buy box is probably just dated property. And it's always got to fit the cash on cash. Like the property that we put $150,000 into it, we're going to make 100 to 150,000, right? So it's going to depend on that. There's not an extensive reno that we've come across where we go, oh my gosh, it's just too big. Um, but what we do come across are homeowners that might not. It's like old dogs, new tricks. If the homeowner is giving us pushback, they don't like how we protect ourselves on the investment, or they're trying to still be in the driver's seat during the entire ordeal. I'm going to be in bed with this homeowner for months, right? I don't, I want them to see the complimentary service that we can provide. I'm not trying to talk them into using me. I want them to want to use me, and so I will say when it's not positioned correctly or talked about correctly, that's when you start getting antsy, sellers, and that can really make a deal fall apart. So I'm very upfront with them. And that's been more cases no than the extensive reno, just because if they go, well, if it doesn't sell in 3 months, I'm taking everything, yada, yada. And it's like, well, even if it's a lipstick job, I'm not going to have you dictate my timeline, right? When I'm trying to work you into 40 or 50,000 more dollars of your home, I'll just come in and try to buy it from you. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier. Well, I need more money. Exactly. If you want more, if you want your cake and eat it too, we got to work together. Don't give me ultimatums. We're trying to do this together. So that's been fun. So I think we call it the warm handoff, which we teach in the community, how exactly to get the seller to be able to be positioned to line up for what we have. And then from there, they're just number one fans. I still get Christmas cards from some of my sellers, right? From properties I've sold years ago, just because they were able to get more money. It was their late father-in-law's house, or X, Y, and Z. And that's been cool. Like that's why you do it.
Yeah, I would imagine a lot of these homes are probably inheritances, right?
Mm-hmm.
As people get older, it's harder for them to keep up with the upgrades and up with the times, and
Yeah.
so and oftentimes they're like I saw several recently that I'm like, oh man, these people should reach out to you. Beautiful home,
Give
good
them over.
size,
Get them over. We
yeah,
give you 25% of the
yeah.
equity.
The kitchen is straight out of the 70s or the 80s, like original. Like donate it to somebody who does props for movies, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like not to the next homeowner.
That is so true. And honestly, yes, most of our stuff is dated. And people forget how, I mean, they call that cosmetic. I'm like, there's a lot of money that goes into houses nowadays. Like people want if it's not Pinterest, it's nothing, and so you gotta, mitigate cost of material, the labor that we have now. And so as you educate the homeowner into it and make them see like, hey, this is what we're doing. I always start off by saying, this is what we provide. I can help, I can bring you the crew, but first and foremost, do you have the money to renovate the home yourself? Because sometimes they'll go, well, I could just do this myself. And I go, phenomenal. Like you should renovate the home. If you're trying to get in front of the most for your value, why don't you do that? Well, in most cases, unfortunately, they don't have the financial means, right? They can't pull a HELOC because they can't get lending on it, right? They don't have friends to borrow the money from. I mean, they got to sell things to get the money. It's like, why start becoming risk tolerant when I could be an all-in-one service to this? And so as you kind of lead them to these solutions and they can draw their own conclusion, then they come back and they're like, okay, I totally see why this is a thing. You go, exactly, right? And so they get to be a part of the process. But yes, dated homes, 100% for your listeners right now, it is not a secret, right? I mean, the underwriting and everything that we teach is going to be able to position you for monumental success on the novation piece. But if you're trying to find your first novation deal, it's like stupid easy. If you go on Redfin should pay me because I push them all the time because I just like their platform so much. But if you go on redfin.com, you just go type in, Detroit, or Arizona, Phoenix, a city that you want to do business in. And then you just go to the filters, you go to single family houses, you take away coming soons because there's no distress there. You just put an active on market, go 90 days or more on market because that means there's some type of qualifying measure to that. And then you just click the little button on Redfin that says fixer upper. It's going to spit out a bunch of homes in that city where agents have had it listed for 3, 4, 5 months. They're probably now not identifying your conventional opportunities. They're getting lowball cash offers, and you could just bridge them into their equity through a creative model like Novations. And then the agent could just put it on hold. You spend a couple weeks to renovate it. The agent just gets to relist it at what it's going to appraise for. They make double their commission. The seller gets worked in their equity, and you just have a property that you get to flip that you don't have to buy. Like you just find like two right now. Like if you went on Redfin and just stumbled into your approach, it's not hard to find deals. Like it's just, and if the property doesn't work, I call it, you're not prospecting the property, you're prospecting the person. If the agent loves you and they're like, holy shit, like, oh, I apologize. If the agent likes it, okay, sorry. If the agent likes it, but they know the seller won't like it, what's the agent going to do every time they go to a property that needs work now? They're just going to pitch your services. So that way you have the agent on the hook because they see the benefit of what's going to help them too. So we've been able to build an army of agents just by doing these calls. And every Tuesday, actually, in my community, in an hour, I do what's called the Tuesday on Market Power Hour. The community just sends me these deals, and I just lock them up live, right, for an hour, and then they get attached to the equity because I don't want to find the deals. I want to be able to fund them and take them to the department. But I have closers that mainly do it, but I gotta feel a little loose, right? I gotta still get it in, so I make sure I still my once a week duty is my Tuesday calls.
I mean, like when you talk about it like that, it my brain goes literally, why doesn't everyone do this?
I
I
love
don't
it.
know.
I
Why
know
doesn't everyone do it?
it honestly pisses me off sometimes, Kat, when like I'll pitch it and it's such a they're like, I don't know, and I'm like, honey, like I'm giving you everything you want. And the thing is though, it is unfortunate because it is different. It is just different. And so if you're looking at the traditional mold and all of a sudden you have an agent who's just stern heavy on doing it this way because they've done it this way for 40 years, I don't think they're going to last going into 2030. Like, I truly don't. I think real estate is pivoting so much that creative is the way in 2024, 2025. So, it's established that some agents just don't want to hear it, but then you call back in a couple of weeks when it's still sitting and listed and you pitch it again. It sounds a lot more appetizing and they start seeing and identifying. And plus, we have so many homes that we send them. Like, hey, look at ones we're currently working on. Like, look at these deals. Look at the work that we do. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and that's kind of what the community gets. We give a buyer credibility package to the entire community. Videos of me going, congratulations, you've been approved for our equity split program. What does that mean, to the homeowners? And they get to go over it. We do the heavy lifting, and they just have to identify homes, and so then we just position it over. It is a really fun, smooth way of just getting in front of deals that are in that limbo state that aren't good cash deals but aren't good listing deals, so you can bridge the gap, for your sellers.
Right. And it really, everybody wins, it sounds like, because, I think of these homes that, I've seen recently and I'm like, well, I'm just watching it sit and I'm watching like the price go down and down. And your heart does go out to that person because
Mhm.
it, depending on their situation, like most people need the money and some people like need the money, which is why
Absolutely.
it's like sitting there at the price and it's not moving, but it's also not selling. And this bridges that gap completely.
It totally does. And we even do pre-releases. Like if the seller needs $20,000, $50,000, depending on the deal, right, to move, I can pre-release that through escrow. That way they get funding now so they can relocate or they want to live with their daughter because their daughter's having a kid or whatever the situation is. That's usually why they need money now. They don't need $400,000 now, but they need to get in front of 30, 50K. What a great way to do that and still work them into their equity and renovate the home for them. And that way they have a peace of mind where they can still cash flow every month, get what's necessary up front, and let us do the heavy lifting.
Oh, that's really cool. So, Trevor, what is next for Buyer Beater?
Ooh, I will say I love these kinds of platforms. I want to just continue to position the voice of reason for novations, right? Push that out. Um, I lean into the VHA side. I want to help the service members as much as possible because I really want them to know that real estate's attainable, and that they're one step away from being able to build a net worth that can really help their children, things like that. But also keeping my head down and just doing this. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, like nowhere near. It's really cool to kind of look up and see what's already been done, but I'm a guy, with longevity. Like I know where I want to be in 10 years, and prancing around isn't going to get me there. So I mean, it really is just going to continue to do this, prove myself, prove the community's worth, and just dig deeper with people who need it.
Well, Trevor, thank you so much for your time today. It has been so cool hearing about what you do and hearing more about creative investing. We will have all your links below so that everybody can find you. But why don't you shout out your socials and stuff like that as well so people can follow you?
Absolutely, I appreciate it. It is just Invest with Trev on every platform. I'm very responsive on my Instagram and my YouTube. Right, we're pushing more and more content on that. I will be launching out a lot more of these kinds of, you know, just what we call buyer beater breakdowns on my YouTube, kind of going over the model so that way you can get in front of the content for free. So that way, when you want to dive in, you're ready, willing, and able to. Buyerbeateruniversity.com. That's exactly how you enroll to what we have. We have classes every single day. Our Tuesday, Wednesday classes are huge. The community is growing. It's so much fun to be able to see that happen. And then, just invest with Trev. Hit me up and DM me, and let's start talking.
Sweet. Trever, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please be sure you're following our podcast on Apple or Spotify, and if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please feel free to leave us a comment or review if you are enjoying our podcast. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.